place we really should start is with Cuba and
Okay.
the fact that this has just become so unbelievably toxic. And of course, our wonderful mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, and what a surprise.
You know what's it's so unfortunate to me that he's very good looking. Like, he's a good looking guy. Like, you know, it's unfortunate. I don't know why. I feel like his outside should match his inside.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of people get very far in life because of their looks. And he is not only getting by on his looks, but he's also getting by on his nepotism. His father is the former mayor of Miami as well.
So what did he do? I mean, I know what he did because I saw it and I'm like, there's my bootlicker. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, there's my bootlicker.
He is one of multiple politicians that said we should drop bombs on
Cuba.
Because that's how we're gonna get them to change. Let's just bomb the hell out of them, and then they'll learn a lesson.
But these are the people that are still perpetuating this communism myth. Okay, that's the problem. That's the enemy. That's the reason the people in Cuba are in dire straits. And no, it's not. Now I'm not saying everything is hunky dory in Cuba on its own, but their biggest problem are our crippling economic sanctions, our embargo. I don't even. You know what? It's not even really an embargo. No. Because that makes it almost sound like it's a legal thing. It's really more. I don't even know what do they call it? The blockade. It's a blockade is what it is.
Well, there's the blockade. There are the 200 plus sanctions that have been employed.
Yeah. These people have not I don't, so it's sort of like is the side. This is the very conservative side of Biden, because Biden obviously, he got the child tax credit through, and that's obviously a big deal. And that's the domestic policy that he's going to hang his hat on, and a lot of Democrats are going to run on. But his foreign policy is just as bad, if not worse, than Trump's. It just is. And this is just another example of that. And Nikki Fried, just a little while ago, puts out a tweet saying, "Oh, we totally stand with the Cuban people. We must end communism." It's like, do you not understand that these voters you think you're going at? You see, this is her problem. Which Cuban people does she think she's standing with? Because if she came down to Miami and I took her down to the Cuba caravan, I don't think she would think those people were standing with her.
It's not even that. It's the fact that they're trying to pander to hardline Republican voters. What are you doing?
I know. And that's except
the other thing is, and let me just say, this is no disrespect to Nikki, but she didn't say that of her own volition. She got that advice from somebody in her camp that thought, this would be a great thing for me to say. This will definitely get me more voters. They don't understand that being more hawkish is not the answer.
No.
It's not going to help you.
Well, you know what? Don't you think that when you have Republicans like Francis Suarez making these kinds of statements, if you're a Democrat and you find that you're in line with those people, isn't that a flag? Yeah. Isn't that a red flag? So in other words, our Democrats are basically supporting, they're not saying bomb Cuba, but they're essentially on the same side of this argument that we somehow have to save those Cuban people. And the best way for us to save the Cuban people is to stop blockading them and stop sanctioning them and let them live their lives. That's how we can help the Cuban people.
And that is 1,000% the correct attitude, and the attitude that most people should be taking on. Because let's face it, U.S. intervention never ends well, ever. And there's obviously a desire on the one hand, and listen, I do not support communism. I know you don't either. Everyone is making this about communism.
See, you say that, and that's not even true. I don't not support communism. I'm not a communist. But if somebody else, that's like saying I don't support Christianity.
No.
I'm not a Christian, but I support other people.
I agree with you that there is a sentiment to basically say, it's not the government that I would choose to live under, but if somebody else wants to, that's their prerogative. And if majority rule says that this is what we want, then that's what the people want. The reason why we're getting involved, no matter what anyone tells you, this is all about corporate special interests.
Well, and it's a pissing match with Cuba that we've been having for a very long time, that at this point is beyond all sense of reason.
Well, again, this has as much to do with the fact that Cuba is an island in the Caribbean that we do not control. And when that happens, when business interests cannot have what they want, and let's face it, up until Castro's takeover in 1959, Batista's Island was basically a haven for big business. That's what it was.
Okay, my dad remembers going there on cruises, and it was beautiful and vacationing there. So,
yeah. So it's, and again, but the will of the people spoke. And unfortunately, we do not agree with what the will of the people is when it comes to our corporate special business interests. And that is a very big problem. And so naturally, are there people who are suffering in Cuba under this totalitarian regime right now?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But do you think that the percentage of people, I wonder, do you think the percentage in Cuba that are suffering, what do you think that percentage is in comparison to the percentage of people in our country that can't make ends meet, that are working 3 jobs, that can't afford housing, that can't afford healthcare? Like, when we look at them and say, oh, those poor people, hello, it's not like we have it going on here. So, I don't know. Like, when people talk about the suffering Cubans, are they suffering more than like our suffering people?
Again,
I don't know.
People who are truly suffering, who are the ones who truly suffer? Working class people are who suffers. And for a lot of them, this is all a vanity project because most people do not agree with, again, when we're talking about the Cubans who live in Miami-Dade and Broward County, we are talking about ones that are not, generally speaking, they are not struggling immensely in life. They are actually doing very well. The Cuban
especially once they come here, because we roll out the red carpet for them.
Well, again, because we share similar corporate interests. And when that happens, it's very easy to get behind them because they're not going to get in the way of the bottom line. In fact, they're going to aid the bottom line because if we are able to take over the island, which has always been the goal, now you have a very dangerous situation here because Biden is a hawk. And on top of that, you've now got the Democratic candidates, Val Demings and Nikki Fried, basically saber rattling for Cuba.
Which is exactly what the Republicans are doing. It's
but again, this is going to backfire.
Oh, yeah.
You are not going to outflank Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio, especially if there is one issue you are not outflanking Marco Rubio on, it is Cuba. Oh. This is his country. And he is as anti-communist as it gets. You're not going to beat him that way.
Or you're not going to be able to get past DeSantis with that being that he's a veteran. I mean, it's like there's just a lot of things that it's just, this is not their lane to take. It is the wrong lane for the Dems to be in.
And you know what? This is why candidates like Alan Ellison and even a candidate like Alan Grayson, they're not going to fall into this trap because they don't have tons of these, wealthy consultant class individuals on their campaign telling them that, no, this is exactly what the voters want. It isn't. There is a portion of the voting bloc that does want it, but overwhelmingly, these voters are going to vote for the GOP. And so going down this path, again, is just another example of bad politics and not recognizing what's going on. As you and I can attest to, we have been to the caravans. This is about ending the sanctions and ending the embargo. If communism and ending communism as we know it in Cuba is the issue at hand for many people, that's an issue you deal with after you rid the sanctions and get rid of the embargo.
Right.
Once that happens,
how do they know that it doesn't work if they're not able to properly do it? So like when you say, I don't support communism, it's kind of like, well, I don't know whether I would or not. I haven't seen it properly applied.
I don't again, I don't want to go there. There is no point in us going there. The only other systems I would entertain
capitalism ain't working so well for us. I'll tell you that.
That's what I'm saying. That I think a hybrid system that is spliced with socialism and capitalism is the best way to go. The happiest countries, most successful countries in the world, particularly in you have Germany, you have Scandinavia, they are very happy with these models, exceptionally happy. Live longer, more prosperous, better retirement, and all that. So as far as
thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.